Okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over Operation Zero Tolerance. Man, okay, so we're going to cover Wolverine issue number 116. Now, here's the thing about this issue because we kind of do learn the secret behind the Prime Sentinels, but not the complete secret about them. It's just really the idea of where they come from. Now, with that being said, when it comes to this issue, it does pick up where our last video left off at for the X-Men. You see, for the X-Men, they're currently on the run because in our last video, they were able to escape from Bastion's base. Now, with the X-Men being on the run, they found this nearby camp out in the middle of the desert. Now, this camp is made of different people who are kind of going through different things when it comes to different types of injuries or medical needs. Now, when they do arrive at the camp, they're then confronted by a character known as Mustang. Now, for Mustang, like the other people at the camp, he is disabled from a recent injury involving a plane crash. And so when he does arrive, he does tell the X-Men like, hey, listen, I can't really tell if you are bad or good, but the thing is, I am blind. But for Mustang, he kind of feels like he can trust the X-Men, and he begins to try to take care of them by giving them food and also a warm fire to sit by to kind of warm up at the moment. Now, when it comes to Mustang, he was also kind of able to realize that Wolverine and the rest of the X-Men are mutants because when they first arrived, you had Wolverine use his nose as a way to learn if the possibility that Mustang might be a Prime Sentinel. But on top of that, when it came to Jean Grey, she also tried to read his mind and make sure that he was someone they could trust. And so he felt Jean Grey in his mind, but also realized Wolverine had used his nose to figure out what's going on with Mustang. Because again, for Mustang, he was in that severe plane crash. And so with that plane crash happening, it left his body pretty damaged. And so he had a lot of work done over the years. He has metal inside of him and also metal on him as well. Now, this is where we kind of learn a tad bit more about this camp. Because I kind of said it earlier, with the idea of this camp being made up by different people who have different types of medical needs, there is a nearby clinic, a nearby doctor. Now, this doctor goes out of his way to help the folks out the best he can. The thing is, for Wolverine, as soon as everyone goes to sleep, you have Wolverine sneak away. And honestly, there's a good thing he did because the actual clinic is not really a clinic. You see, that clinic is really more a base being used at the moment to help create Prime Sentinels. And so all the different people at this camp right now, they have been going over there over time for many different types of visits, but each visit is really more of them slowly turning into a Prime Sentinel. Now for Mustang, for somebody who is blind, he never saw mutants technically, but also the idea of Prime Sentinels is Jean Grey feeding him information so that he knows what is truthfully going on. Because at first, he kind of believes like, oh wait, you're telling me there is some factory out there that's turning people into robots, but giving them the chance to be able to walk again, or see again, or fly for the first time. But in reality, no. You're losing your human side, becoming a cyborg, and working for this guy known as Bastion to hunt down mutants across the nation. And so once you have Mustang realize that technically him being at this camp is not going to really help him, he begins to freak out. But the problem is for the X-Men, they realize there's some aircrafts right now heading that way. And of course, looking for our heroes. Now, when it comes to Mustang, he does help our heroes out here by basically guiding them into this underground tunnel. Now, for our heroes, while being down there, they can't be seen nor detected by the aircrafts that are currently being used by Operation Zero Tolerance. Now, for Logan, he's still looking out the trap door, and he realized that it's now Mustang going out of his way to try to warn the other campers who are currently right now on a bus heading over to that factory to be turned into Prime Sentinels. But the problem is, when it comes to Bastion, he wants to find the X-Men badly. And he says, hey, listen, that camp right now is what we're using to make more and more Prime Sentinels. But here's the thing, I need you right now to go ahead and activate at least 3 of them down there to hopefully find our missing targets. Of course, he's talking about the X-Men. But now we have to switch over to Senator Kelly and also Henry Gyrich. Now, here's the thing, because, man, for these two characters, they kind of gone out of their way to support Bastion at first when it came to his idea of using Operation Zero Tolerance to go after different mutants in America. But now you kind of realize that was a huge mistake, because now you are talking about the idea of innocent people who may or may not know they are mutants just being attacked, captured, or possibly killed by Bastion and his army of prime Sentinels. And so for Senator Kelly, he tells Henry, like, okay, it's now time for us to shut down Operation Zero Tolerance. So go ahead and call in S.H.I.E.L.D. And so it does seem like we're getting very close to the idea of Bastion being shut down and the mutants possibly being saved by Senator Kelly. But now we have to switch over to X-Men issue number 68. Now, with this issue, really when it came to the X-Men book around this time for Operation Zero Tolerance, really did focus more on 2 characters, Bobby Drake, better known as Iceman, and Dr. Reyes. Now, here's the thing. With these 2 characters, they've been technically on the run for a moment now when it came to the Prime Sentinels trying to hunt them down. Now, in our last video, you had Detective Jones, someone who used to date Archangel, also a close ally for the X-Men, take the 2 over to the police department. Now, here's the thing, because the reason why she did that, it was her trying to get her son back. But the problem was that she basically set up Bobby and also Dr. Reyes to be hunted down and killed by police officers who had been turned into Prime Sentinels. But as we get into the opening pages of this storyline, or this issue number 68, we're picking up with Marrow. Now for Marrow, man, Marrow was somewhat popular around this time in Marvel Comics. You see, for her character, she led Gene Nation, the second or possibly third generation of the Morlocks who came back to the main Marvel universe to kill off the human race. Now, in a recent chapter of Operation Zero Tolerance, you really have Spider-Man being able to get to her, to begin the process of her possibly turning into a better person. And the reason why I'm saying that, because with her right now attacking this police department, it's not really her going out of her way to kill the police officers. She only knocks them out. But as we do switch over to Dr. Reyes and also Bobby Drake, those 2 characters had currently been stuck in this interrogation room for a good while. Now, when it comes to Bobby, he realized that they have been officially set up. He has no idea that technically for Detective Jones, the reason why she did set them up because she's trying to get her son back from the Prime Sentinels. And so you do have Bobby and also Dr. Reyes be attacked by some police officers who are technically, Prime Sentinels. Now, when it comes to our 2 heroes, they're trying to escape. The problem is that they run into some regular police officers kind of wondering what in the what is going on. And so for our heroes, they're kind of stuck in the middle of both different parties, the regular police officers and the Prime Sentinels. Now, in the last part of this video, we have saw that for Senator Kelly and also for Henry Gyrich, they're now beginning the process of trying to shut down Operation Zero Tolerance. But at this point, it's really more them about to have that meeting to hopefully get it shut down. And the reason why, because for, not Henry Gyrich, for Senator Kelly, it's really more of him kind of comparing what's happening right now to the Holocaust. It's the whole idea that you technically have a guy right now just going after a race of people because he has some kind of hatred for them. And the problem is you now have the American government supporting the whole idea of them going after just one race of people. And so right now it's him saying, like, we are technically helping a guy who's very similar to Hitler to just kill off a race of people because he has some kind of hatred for them, but also because only a small group of them is technically bad apples, but not the entire race. And so we do see Kelly right now going into that meeting to hopefully get it shut down. Now, you do have the book quickly shift back over to Bobby and also Dr. Reyes. I kind of like this because it's really more the book saying, like, okay, These two characters right now are the main focus, but also it's Dr. Reyes kind of getting better with coming to using her powers to protect herself, but to also protecting Bobby Drake as well. And so while you do have the two characters working together, it's them now slowly becoming a team with one another. But while you have the two characters trying their best to get the heck out of the police department building, you did have them be confronted again by a couple more prime Sentinels. Now, luckily for the two, Detective Jones realized that what she did, setting up Bobby and also Dr. Reyes, was completely wrong, and is now her trying her best to make it better by trying to help them get the heck out of there, but still have the chance to get her son back. Now, unfortunately, for good old Detective Jones, she does get injured as well. But luckily for her, she has Dr. Reyes there to begin the process of patching her up. Now, we do switch over to a character known as Sabraa. Now, when it came to Sabraa, she was part of the Israeli Special Forces, but she had downloaded some information about Operation Zero Tolerance. Her main goal was to get it over to the X-Men, and so she just arrived in Connecticut, getting the chance to hopefully find the X-Men to hand that information over. But we can just go ahead and quickly move back over to Bobby and also Dr. Reyes. And when we do, it's really more the two characters right now realizing that for Detective Jones, her son has been taken. Now, they kind of care. Meryl does not. And matter of fact, when she walks in, she makes it very clear that she does not care about that missing child. Because again, that child is a human, not a mutant. But anyways, for Bobby, he kind of realized this right here is not the best place for them at the moment to kind of have this conversation because, again, they don't know how many more prime Sentinels could be in the building. But while you do have the three characters leave, they realize that as soon as they left that building, they had stepped into another ambush just full of different kinds of prime Sentinels coming after our heroes at the moment. But the very last page of this chapter truly does reveal the idea that the young boy that belongs to Detective Jones, he is alive, but right now he's kind of a prisoner. But he believes that apparently his mom has gone deep undercover supposedly to earn a lot of money. And that closes this issue. Now, we dive into the one issue I was kind of hyped to cover because this right here basically opens up the doors to the idea of the origin, the secrets to Monet. Like, what is the full origin about her character? Because, well, you know what? You'll see at the very end of this video. But as we get into issue number 31 for Generation X, we're basically now picking up with our young heroes still fighting against the Prime Sentinel. Because remember, when it came to this storyline for Operation Zero Tolerance, for our young heroes, is technically continuing a storyline that took place back in issue number 25, where you had Black Tom go out of his way to put the kids out in the middle of the sea. Now, with that happening, they ran into a character known as Glorian. Now, when it came to Glorian, his big idea was to hopefully bring people's dreams to life. And so when it came to Skin, he said the only thing he wanted was to go back home, but to also see his friends that are with him well protected. And so for our young heroes, they were then transported over to LA. And so while being in LA and trying their best to hide, but also get some help, they ran into the Prime Sentinels. Now, there are a couple of characters here that could be somewhat important, but for the sake of Operation Zero Tolerance, I'm only going to focus on the main characters. Now, with that being said, it's just our heroes trying their best right now to technically survive here. But the problem is that you didn't have the young mutants get a tad bit too cocky, because for them, they're winning the battle against the Prime Sentinels. Because for them, they're like, listen, we have been trained by Banshee and Emma Frost for a good few months now. We know how to handle ourselves. But the problem is that there is an army of Prime Sentinels. And also, they're getting too cocky. And so one by one, each member of Generation X is being defeated. Now, luckily for Skin's cousin, his plan does go off. The entire building does blow up. And we're kind of left to wonder, like, okay, did they survive? But also, did the Prime Sentinels survive as well? But as we do switch back over to Emma Frost and Banshee, for those two characters, they were confronted by DOA and M-Plate in the last video. And those two characters, they wanted to make a deal with Emma Frost and Banshee like, hey, listen, if you hand over Penance, we'll tell you where the rest of your kids are at. Now for Banshee, he said no. Emma Frost said yes. And so you had Emma Frost knock out Banshee and begun the process of actually handing Penance over to M-Plate and DOA. Now, at the very last second in this chapter, you have Banshee being able to get rid of DOA and M-Plate, save Penance's life, but it's also Emma Frost kind of getting upset. But it's also her pleading, saying like, listen, I was not going to for real hand over Penance to M-Plate. But the thing is, for Banshee, it did seem like she was going to. Now, this begins the process of us kind of ending the book when it comes to Generation X and their part in Operation Zero Tolerance. And the reason why, because we jump over to Jubilee and you have Daria going out of her way to help Jubilee escape from Bastion's base. Now, with Jubilee now being free, you also have Daria make sure that all the attention is on her, so Jubilee can still get away. Now, with that being said, this is technically the last issue for Operation Zero Tolerance for Generation X, because right after you have Jubilee being able to get away, because now we switch back over to Generation X, because earlier we saw the building got blown up as a way to hopefully kill off the Prime Sentinels, but to also give our heroes a way to escape. The thing is, they find Sync first, and we're like, okay, cool, Sync's alive, what about the rest of the team? You have Sync go out of his way to pull up Monet. This is the big part right here, because we do learn Monet is not really just Monet, meaning that it's not just one person. It's two young girls, twins, who are able to combine together to make Monet. The mysterious origin for this character, M-Plate's character, and Penance's character continues on. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, getting a small headache here. But anyways, for Generation X, this was their last chapter in Operation Zero Tolerance. The next time we see them is outside of this event. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.